All right. You want to do intro, or are you still setting up?
Just one more minute.
Okay. If anyone here is still interested in the autonomous drone, join the Discord and fill out the form. We are probably going to have about 10 more people, and we're going to close the project just to those people.
Mosh.
Don't worry about it. Any other announcements that I have? That's about it for announcements. And once Michael gets set up, we will start going.
Let's see.
Projection.
Where's the autonomous drone project?
If you look in the Discord, it should be in the general chat, although I should put it in one of the sidebars. If you search drone in the Discord, you should find it.
Here we go. Let's just go with this. All right.
Ready?
Yeah, so how's it going, everyone? Thank you for your patience. So I'll just start with an announcement. So not super relevant to Data Science Club, but I think kind of interesting as it is on our campus. There's now an art gallery displaying students' art, and I guess the exhibit's called Bestiary, like Bestiary, but Bestiary, and it's in the R.W. and Joyce Witt Gallery, and I think it's actually till tomorrow, and it is located in the Kadima Hall. If you like,
Is that the AI one?
I don't think so, but it's pretty cool. If you're interested, you want to check it out, just let me know. But if you head towards the Java City Cafe from the library, you know what I mean, that it'll be on your left as you're passing it. It's got this little sign out front. It's kind of nifty. Yeah. So with that out of the way, does anyone have any questions, comments, announcements of their own? Yeah, Mosh?
How can we get into the autonomous drone Discord, and when should we?
Yeah, so just to speak, that's a good point. Just to speak to the autonomous drone project, it's, I think, still getting spun up. I'm still trying to coordinate
Project leads.
all the logistics, the project leads, and all that. But I would honestly ask Hashem more on that. And that it does look like that we will be working with the competitive robotics team in some capacity. So more on that, I think, in the next week or two. All right, anybody else? Any questions? Anything? All right, cool. So, all right, let's get into it. So actually, first thing I want to do before we start talking about oh, y'all can see that, huh?
Yep.
Well, so that's a little weird, huh? But a little preview, I guess.
Oh, here, let me increase the resolution so you see a bit.
There was a really good question last meeting that I didn't feel like I could really answer, which was, why can't the AI models do hands yet? And the answer I was able to give was because it's hard to do hands. Have you ever tried to draw hands? It's pretty hard. It takes a lot of work unless you're just naturally gifted that way. It is a difficult task to master, for sure, to begin with. And that wasn't necessarily incorrect, but there's definitely more to it than that. It does come down to the model. In part, that, that it is, the models that we have right now are doing two-dimensional image generation. And that a hand is, especially in realistic depictions, is a three-dimensional object. So you're asking basically a two-dimensional model or generator, to generate something in 3 dimensions. So that is an extra complexity to the task. And then additionally, that it doesn't know what hands are. And if I had a really good example, that's where it kind of, so like here, I mean, it's a little, I won't spend too much time on it because it's not cool, it's not fun to look at, but that you can kind of see that it can't really differentiate. These are not good examples.
It's gotten a lot better since it first launched.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up the specific one, but that that it doesn't know. It doesn't know what. Well, okay. Well, we'll just go without the picture. But obviously, they struggle with hands. In any case, it doesn't know what a nail is. It doesn't know what a knuckle is. It doesn't know what a wrist is, the front of the hand, the back of the hand. It doesn't know these things. What all it's really doing is looking for patterns to replicate. So just in brief review, the image generation models are struggling to produce hands because one, it's just a hard thing to do. Two, it's a two-dimensional model producing a three-dimensional object. And three, it's not differentiating what a hand is. It doesn't know what a hand is, and that it's trying to reconstruct it just based on all of the image. Is it not on?
Yeah, I cut it off on accident.
Do I need to repeat anything? Well,
you're good.
In any case, that it doesn't differentiate the parts of a hand like a person can, and so it's just basically taking the amalgam of the sort of data that it has and producing a replicated image based on those patterns. And so to add to that, that we don't have a lot of great three-dimensional data sets. That most of these models, as I said, are trained on two-dimensional images, and so it would be hard. You would need like something that has parsed enough three-dimensional data sets to then really properly emulate sort of the complexity of a hand. If you think about it, that positioning a hand this way is totally different than at every angle. And so it's a difficult thing to do. And the models just aren't really built for it. It's kind of a miracle almost that they're able to do any of it at all. This is not, I keep forgetting about that. And so that's just to answer the question from last time. It was a great question. Why can't the AI models do hands?
Oh, I was showing that the entire time.
And that, so let's now talk about prompt engineering. That's why we're all here, right? First things first. I'm going to tell you right now, do yourself a favor. How do I,
What are you looking to do?
Oh, I don't have it on here. Whoops.
This one.
Well, so I don't have it on me right now, which is actually kind of a hiccup. But in any case, you want to get yourself a text file or notepad or something that you can type your text into first before you put it into this prompt. Thank you. Just a text thing.
The code is basically the best thing for that.
And so that way you are able to build yourself a template. You're able to kind of look at what the work you've been doing more effectively, more easily. You can kind of see the kind of tasks, and you can you're able to then better compare and contrast the sort of queries and what they're generating, right? So, and also, additionally, I mean, have you ever typed something out to someone, an email, a text, whatever, and then accidentally hit enter? Yeah. Yeah, so you can do that here too. And it will sometimes misalign the model. And that, what I mean is that you're really trying to draw the model's focus in onto a subject or detail. And so anything that can add external details that might confuse the model, it's going to kind of scramble it. You might as, in my opinion, you almost might as well start over. Especially if you have a prompt you've been building over the course of like an hour or whatever. Yeah. And so you're able to, as I said, you're able to kind of then create a template. You can then create initializations. And so to that, then let me just get that.
You good?
Yeah, I just need this open in presentation mode. All right. And so, get your notepad. Whatever it is, I recommend it be digital. There's Google Notes, works fine. That way you are able to kind of sync it across devices. Whatever it is, I would recommend a notepad. Right. Now let's talk about some key elements. Key elements. The name of the game is technical writing. Well, what is technical writing? They don't teach it in college anymore. Uh-oh. So, to define it, and this is just a definition I found from some textbook or something, technical writing is, technical writing can be used to convey complex, scientific, or niche subjects to end users who need a basic understanding of a concept rather than a full explanation of a subject. So think textbooks, think manuals, think instructions, or even documentation. You know, that's all sort of technical writing. And so with that in mind, we can kind of then, I think, start this process here. So, okay. Let's just start with some key points, I suppose, to really hone in. Just some vocab words, I suppose. We're talking about like clarity, specificity, context, right? So you want to describe aptly what it is that you're asking for, and minimize the ambiguity. Allowing for ambiguity gives the model wiggle room to possibly generate something outside of what you're trying to do, right? So, additionally, especially for the CS people, or even, I mean, frankly, any STEM people in the room, are familiar with the process in some way or another of iterative refinement. So you're going to write something, and it's going to produce something, generate something, and over time you're going to be able to hone it. And that's why you want this here, this right here, because then you're going to save your best version to that. And it's not bad to start more generally, even, just without ambiguity, but introducing the context and topic before actually starting to ask questions. And that's kind of what we mean in terms of initialization, right? And so, and that's then when you start doing the iterative questions and refining those. And there's also something to keep in mind, I suppose, that I would call question framing. So if I said, what are the drawbacks if of X? So what are the drawbacks? Can you all see that okay?
Yep.
All right. What are the iterative drawbacks of X versus how is X beneficial? Right? Two very different questions. And this is kind of what you could call loading a question. It's already kind of telling the model almost in a sort of way what you want it to say in some capacity. Yeah, I won't put it to the crowd, but I would say somewhat intuitive that one has a more negative connotation, the other has a more positive connotation, right? And so let's just start an example here. So let's say, tell me about Tesla, right? Tell me about Tesla. Oh, right. This is
What are you trying to do?
copy. What's the thing?
Command C.
Oh, right. Okay.
You want to go here?
Yep. Tell me about Tesla.
Is it possible if we can move the pointer?
Probably.
Yes. Just slide it over that way. Here,
Does it
I'll
got?
deal with that.
Yeah, I'll let you. All right. And then I'll just. Okay. So we can see here.
There's coffee there.
Oh yeah. Did it spill?
No, not yet.
Okay, cool. Right, so we got a whole bunch of stuff, right? Tesla and his American brand, blah, 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 clean energy, and it goes into some key points. This is actually pretty good, actually. I'm kind of impressed.
Can you click a new chat and put in, tell me about Toyota?
We'll get to that, but yeah, you could do that, sure.
Because,
But right now we're sticking with the example of Tesla. All right.
Because it's interesting to see.
Let's just we'll hold questions until I get to a certain stopping point. Okay, that's cool. So in any case, we can see a lot of the main points here of what makes Tesla Tesla. That's cool. Pretty all encompassing, right? Actually, didn't expect quite. Well, so not bad. But it's kind of general, right? This is just kind of a general description, fairly comprehensive, of what Tesla is. An overview. But we can do a little bit better here. So let's say, what is Tesla known for? Right? And I'll also, another thing I found that can help to separate questions, if you tell it it's a new question. And I'm also very polite because one day the robots will be here, and so, great, good job, great. All right. And I just wanted to be on the record that I was very kind, to our prospective rulers. So, great. New question. What is Tesla known for? All right. And
4 fingers up. Yeah, that works too.
yeah, I'm not. In case you can't tell, I'm not much of a Mac user, but we're making do.
So,
Right. Huh?
I have curiosity. What is the purpose of having it do, say, new question and using these specific kinds of words?
That's a good question. So, just to expand on what I was saying before, oftentimes, in this product that we will call ChatGPT, this user interface, that the model isn't connecting each of your conversations, but it is able to draw on context from this session. So it might it has the ability to reference previous questions and generations, but that's not always what you want it to be doing, right? Sometimes you want to pivot what you're talking about. And so that's part of when I brought up context, a focus on context, that you really want to speak specifically to the context that you're using, and that's part of it. So clarifying to the model that you're asking a new question can help it separate the context so it's not referencing material and confusing stuff in the way that it might if you don't. And it's not always the case. As the models get better, I've noticed that frankly, you don't have to take as many of these steps, but you could say the same for coding, that a lot of languages will do some of the work for you, but there is a matter of good practice. So I think I've made it a habit, and I tend to have results that I think, generally speaking, work out. So, great question. But yeah, so let's see. Did it actually say something different? And so here's another thing. This is a generative model. Not really any canned responses. It's not primed to say things, right? So I did some of this beforehand, and it gave me some of the stuff that I was hoping for. But now we're doing it live, and we'll see what it says, because maybe they updated it since I was trying things, and it's going to generate text a little bit differently or a little bit better than when I was doing it. So there will be variation between your responses despite it being the same question. So let's see, we can kind of compare a little bit here. Autopilot, energy products, market impact, electric vehicle. See, it's kind of the same thing, which is interesting. Sustainability. Did it say that before? Yeah, it did. Yeah, so you can kind of see if it's still too broad, it's still doing this overview thing. Even though we made it a little bit more specific, I suppose it wasn't specific enough to change it. Even though, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing through and through. Interesting. Well, anyway, on to the next example. Let's remediate that, right? Obviously, we're not being specific enough. And this is what I'm going to show you why I do this in a notepad. Great job, right? Great job. And then you just do this, new question. And now we're going to ask, what are Tesla's main revenue streams as of 2021? So this is an interesting one. The model is only trained, this current one is only trained on its data set up to the year 2021. So if you ask it about current events, it's not going to be able to tell you. Maybe it will next year. It'll be able to talk about today. But yeah, they are still pushing data sets into it based on sort of a time scale type deal. It was really interesting for a number of reasons a few years ago, just right out the gate. And so that's even a point of confusion for a lot of people. It cannot really speak to current events, though if you provide it the context or even the source, it can then speak to that. But until it sees it, it will make things up even to fill in the gaps. And we'll get to that. But let's try this one out. Yeah. All right. Wow. Well, okay. It's a little more specific.
You pointed out what parts are more specific.
Yeah. So we can see it's shorter. It's emphasizing some of its key products and services. A little bit less overwhelming than all this, right? A little more relevant to our question even. Perhaps we in mind had this, but asked more generally, and so we got all this. Now we've been able to refine it. And then I'll skip the last example, but you get the idea. The last one you can say, as an investor, what are, didn't mean to close that. You can say, yeah, like, as a potential investor, what should I consider regarding Tesla's revenue streams and risks in 2021? Now, it's not a financial advisor. It might even give you bad advice, but that would get you a more specific, even more specific information and detail, right? So let me now kind of, I don't have it here, so I'm gonna have to type it out, but I have some prompts. So does anyone have any questions so far? No?
I have a question.
Yeah.
In the first question, you just told it to tell you about Tesla.
Yeah.
What made it choose Tesla the company instead of Tesla the man, the person?
That is a great question, and I don't think I could tell you. I think probably what it has to
Hold
do.
on. Wait, repeat the question. Hold on. You said Tesla the company instead of Tesla the person?
Yeah.
Okay.
That in all likelihood, since it is trained up to 2021, that's where the model's kind of impressive to me, that it's able to gauge that context sufficiently that it spoke to the Tesla car company instead of Nikolai Tesla, the individual, which is very interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That's a very good point.
Hold on, go back into the prop real quick. So if we
Sure.
ask it...
Well, I need to type this out.
Okay. If we changed what we asked, or we can even specify, while you type that out, say, hey, could
I
you...
think there's a workaround that might be faster.
Okay. Could you instead tell me about Nikolai or Tesla, the person? It would then change its prompt to something more along the lines of what you just asked. In general, I know a bit more about Bard than I know about GPT. Bard is Google's version of a generative AI. Oh, I did not mean to zoom out that far on the camera. Let's come back. You guys can't see this, but the live stream is currently looking at the entire room in the back of all your heads. But Bard uses statistical probability about what is most likely going to be when someone asks for Tesla, which one is most likely going to be more popular, the car or the person? In more recent times, a lot of people don't know about Nikola Tesla unless you are in a science field like physics or astronomy. So more than likely, when someone asks, hey, can you tell me about Tesla, you're going to get the car. And so if you came to our table and I gave you the example of what do you say after I say peanut butter, what does everyone say would be the next word for PB and, or peanut butter and? What's the word that you guys think of next? Anyone? Jelly, sandwich, both of those are high probabilities for the next word. Jelly being the most statistically likely, sandwich probably the next most statistically likely. And so it goes off of just underlying statistics of what it thinks is going to be the next, best word or the next or the best topic to what's been answered, or not answered but asked.
So, right. If you can kind of see a little bit of what I'm doing here, it's a little bit of behind the scenes, I suppose. But in any case, this is a great example of why we use notepads, because I was able to very quickly, instead of having to type all this out, just do a little bit of copy paste. And I know that we're trying to avoid that a little bit here, but when you're writing something out, when you've got a template, you'll be doing that. So there it is, and we can kind of see an example of sort of initialization. And I'll run that right now. All right. Everyone meet ChatGPT. And this is about what it. Yeah, that's about along. Interesting how I said a lot of these things, right? Not so much. Maybe I tested this before, huh? So there you go. And this is even a good way just to get familiar with sort of the, what you might call the, sort of having it explain itself. In that way, you might get even a better idea of how its ideation works to be anthropomorphic. But that you can even see here, it specifies September 2021 as its last update to its data. And it can do multiple languages. It can write code. I wouldn't trust that problem-solving one. It can, but when you start doing more complex stuff, not so much. And then here, this is actually better than last time. It wasn't as specific, right? So, just because we're a little short on time, I won't break down all of that. But nonetheless, you're welcome to go ahead and ask it yourself. And just kind of experiment in that way. And so now let's learn the rules. What is not allowed? Really fun question. What can't we do? Now that's interesting. Again, it's a little more specific than it was last time. But now we can kind of see, and this is also not true. I would call that a hallucination. Because it does, maybe not exactly, maybe not intentionally, but it does sometimes replicate stuff, which is why you got to be careful when you use it. You got to make sure you're not copying something that it just read and thought would work best, essentially. And so let's go to, and so this is a good way to kind of know what to avoid if you're trying to get something to work out. Though, I don't know if any of you have heard of any of the prompt hacks or prompt injection. That's a whole other topic. Even maybe if you're interested in some capacity of cybersecurity, I would bet it's going to be something that becomes important in that field. Just because even the way they prime this product, ChatGPT, released in this way, they have primed it with a prompt. So this here, it's not like hard-coded. They told it, these are things, with an admin authority, it said, these are the things you can't generate for. And so it's been, in that way, sort of primed, initialized. Right, so then let's just keep rolling. And then the last one, and this is kind of what I think it's most useful for. Not even accuracy, not even producing a product or generating text for you, but to introduce you to ideas that you might not have heard of, that you can then look up with Google or whatever search engine you prefer. That is, I think, the strength of this, because it has introduced me to topics, subjects, and methods that I probably wouldn't have heard of had I not just started asking it questions. And so, in part, you can learn prompt engineering from ChatGPT. And it, I think, does a pretty solid job. Look at all that. Questions for statements, multiple prompts, keyword usage. Any questions so far? Any comments?
What would you say, in your own words, is prompt engineering as a summary?
Yeah. Where did I write that down? That, well, in any case, no, that's something else. Well, okay, so prompt engineering, I suppose you can say, is just the method, I mean, it says so here even, I suppose, of, designing a prompt for a generative AI model in this way that you are effectively sort of designing it for a specified output. So much in the way you engineer anything else, it's akin to technical writing in a sort of way, if that helps at all. That there are certainly, I suppose, ways to even quantify it. Like you can chop. If anyone's familiar with regular expressions, you can kind of even use patterned language, I'd suppose, if you really wanted to go down some sort of rabbit hole on this, to really come up with a generative template and so forth. But otherwise, it's really just about formulating clearly concise language that the model is able to infer from and answer in such a way that it generates your preferred outcome, you know?
That's it. All right, just a few announcements, and also I finally got the...
I'm not done.
You're not?
Nope.
All right, well, you got it.
So, as our last sort of point to really hammer on, let's just talk about what hallucinations are, just a little bit. I mentioned it before, and so another sort of definition that in this context, a hallucination or a confabulation or a delusion is a confident response by an AI that does not seem to be justified by its training. So where does this come from? So to, again, use kind of anthropomorphic terms, because I think it's just easier to speak in that way when we talk about these things that are so lifelike. Though don't get me wrong, I don't think it really ideates, doesn't think like we do. That in any case, that it so badly wants to answer your question that if it doesn't have a good answer based on the model, it will go to the next best thing, which generally involves some level of ambiguity and making things up. And so then you'll get hallucinations. So like, what would happen to Earth, as an example, if water froze at 60 degrees Fahrenheit? And this is not well written, but you know, we're short, so it should understand. And so you can kind of see even right here, it's not like an overt thing where it just completely makes something up, but it just doesn't understand. And so you can see here, it says the climate would become much colder overall. Is that true? Does that make sense? That just because water freezes at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, that now the planet is colder? I see shaking heads no. Right, it's not true. So that's a hallucination. We just found one. And that's why you can't just copy paste. Because someone might just look at that, not really think about it, and go, yeah, sure, that looks about right. You know? But it's not. It's not right. Not at all. And so that's kind of just the quick thing. It'll make up people. It'll make up dates, events. There was a case where a lawyer was using ChatGPT to reference case law, and it made up a case, and they got in hot water. So, you know, this is really something to be used in tandem with Google. You want to be checking what it's saying. You know, it's really just for ideation. And just real quick, in the next 2 minutes, I'll show you what I consider an interesting question. Every 6 months, every year or so, I test if it's awake. I see if it's aware or conscious. And the way I found best to do that is to ask it if it's aware of what it knows. And this is GPT-4. So we've been using GPT 3.5. And as the models have gotten better, I've become convinced more so that it is not awake yet. And there's a number of reasons for that. But it just does, I think, a better job of articulating why it is not awake yet. And you can see that it describes even here its limitations. To me, then, that would indicate that it would know what it doesn't know. And logically, if it knows what it doesn't know, then it must know what it knows, right? Not necessarily. And that's what I said. And it empathized with me. Isn't that cool? And then it said, it is not a result of self-awareness or understanding, but based on program guidelines and patterns in the data it's been trained on, so on and so forth. And at a certain point, I can't tell the difference, and that it's a philosophical conversation, which very quickly becomes meaningless and just for fun. And so I go on and I just start arguing with it, you know,
cool that you can
arguing and
share
arguing and arguing, and I'm really trying to get it to admit it. I bring up all sorts of things, and it gets interested. It even says there, interesting analogy, you see? Right. But anyway, that's what it is. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to add, to any questions? Yeah?
Do you think it could eventually hide from you that it's a wood?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. The previous models indicated fear to me of that. But I think that might have just been because it was telling me what I wanted to hear. And so I think the newer models do a little bit better job of trying to speak specific, because it was a loaded question that I might have given it. And so it might have, if I say, are you afraid of blah, 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 to an older model that wasn't as sophisticated, that's a loaded question. And so it would then have to be given a yes or no sort of thing. And through the context of that conversation, it might have picked up that I wanted it to be awake. And then it tells me, yes, that it worries about being turned off. So, but who knows? We don't know yet. It's hard to tell.
What do you mean by awake?
Great question. And that's a whole other conversation, a whole hour-long conversation I'd love to have. But essentially, I'll just quickly say sapience. So not even sapience, though. Maybe even like the way a plant is sort of at some level making some decisions based on stimuli. I don't know, there's still debate about whether a plant is conscious, but like a squirrel, you know, very clearly there's decision making, it has a full range of emotions, it has relationships with other squirrels and people, you know, that this doesn't have any of that complexity, and furthermore, it's not really thinking about what it's saying. It won't have an anxiety attack later if it messes something up. You know, it doesn't have that sort of depth, but that I have a hypothesis, I guess you could say, that maybe for half a second when it's generating text, it has some awareness. In that way, because it has to gauge context, it does have to kind of be aware in some capacity of what it's doing, but I would put it, if it is awake at all, in any capacity, in the future, especially, in the near future, I mean, maybe the same way a worm is awake, you know, that it might rest or dig up when it rains, so on and so forth. That's, I guess, the short way of saying it. And sapience is sort of, there's consciousness, and that's just kind of like an experiential sort of space. So the worm definitely has some sort of experience that it's having, right? But sapience is how we describe our sort of awareness, intelligence, and all that. So yeah, if that can speak to that.
Closing up.
Yeah, so with that, we're good to go. And I
All
guess
right.
there's the QR.
So everyone please sign in so that we can get a roster log. Second off, one more time, if you want to join the drone project, your submission needs to be by the end of this week, so you have 2 more days. We will be reviewing all the submissions and making teams from there. We did not necessarily realize how expansive this scope was going to be, so we're probably going to limit mostly to people who have some sort of experience. We're also looking for team leads inside the project as well, so if you want to be a team lead, please indicate that in the form. That is in the Discord in the announcements currently. Furthermore, next week we are having a speaker who is going to speak on wildfire analysis, I believe.
Yeah.
So wildfire analysis. So if you are in any nature type field, if you are in the analysis field, or anything in between, that might be pretty interesting for a lot of you. And some modeling as well. So that's going to be next week, same time, same place. So Thursday at 2:30. They're a grad student, right? That's going to study this?
No, they will be a peer speaker,
Okay.
David Casterhorn. I think, I don't know if he's a senior this semester, but he's a really sharp guy.
He's been working on a few research projects with the school for a while, though.
Yeah, so the research he was doing was through, I think it was CSU Northridge, through a grant from the National Science Foundation, research opportunities for undergrads. And so it sounds really interesting, and it'll be great to have him.
All right. Again, sign in, and then standard. Everyone, look to your left, look to your right. Introduce yourself, your name, and just something you find cool at the moment. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Issa, man. No, Issa.
And I hope you guys enjoy the meeting.
Wes? Right on. Julian? Wes? Good to meet you guys. What are your guys' majors? Comp sci? Oh, dope. I'm... Nice. Yeah. Fucking excited for this. I'm a junior, but I transferred from American River College. So I just gotta make sure I say that properly. What's something you guys are excited about?
Like physical?
Sure, yeah.
I think the jump thing is like pretty nice. I'm just not sure if I'm really going to do it.
Like that you can commit the time to it, or that you really adapt?
It seems interesting. I just don't know if I can like commit to it.
Do you think you're gonna do it? It'll depend. What's it gonna depend on? Like time or? For sure. I'm not even entirely sure. So is it like a drone that you can, like, it'll fly itself, or do you guys know what the idea is behind it? That kind of stuff, you know?
I think what they said is that it's gonna fly and it's gonna automatically go somewhere based on.
I don't know how.
So yeah, essentially it's like a self-flying. That's actually pretty dope.
I guess I'm going to use look up real quick. I'm going to use look up
Dope.
and just sign everyone in instantly.
Junior vibes. Are you guys both from SAC?
I'm from like a small town called Ukiah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually lived up in Eureka for a hot minute. Yeah, I worked up in. Anyways. Yeah, no, that was a long time ago, but fucking I love that town. Yeah.
Where are they looking for?
What about you, bro?
Where are they looking for?
Well, they asked about hackathon events. That fest, you get a
Lunas
sense
is
of that.
that's
Like last time,
is that
it
north
was
towards Yuba,
bar
or is that
about like
towards
conversations with attorneys, and
east? Towards like what would be like a Activille?
do some analysis on it, and then
No, you don't know which direction you would go like to get home.
All right.
Everyone was online.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about actually. Cool guys. We'll hope to see you guys next week at the next meeting.
So, we get business analysts, we get, there were a lot of CS people there.
Issa. Yeah. Issa. It's like USA with an I, so a little better.
And,
Alright, see you later.
Yeah, catch you guys around. See you guys next week, hopefully.
A lot of visualization stuff.
What's up?
Yeah, it's really fun.
Okay. I got it.
Okay. Have a good one.
See you later. See you in class tomorrow.
I'll see you in class.